Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video, and today I want to share with you my Dialga Vstar deck list. Now Dialga is a deck that a lot of people think has fallen off quite hard and really isn't meta anymore, but I think it's still really good. I am absolutely destroying everyone on the ladder in TCG Live, and I'm actually going to my first IRL tournament within like 2 weeks, and I will be bringing Dialga Vstar with me on that tournament. So today I'm basically gonna walk you through my deck list that I've built after playing this deck for I think like multiple months. Basically the changes and how the deck just works overall. But starting off, our main attacker is obviously Dialga Vstar. It's a V-Star Pokemon with 280 HP, and it has 2 attacks, both of which are very strong. Its first attack, Metal Blast, does 40 damage, plus 40 more damage for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. Now we can use Metang, which I'll talk about later, to power this attack up really easily and start swinging for insane numbers. With this attack, you can easily hit for 240 or 280 or even 320 if you really have to. However, Dialga does often struggle dealing enough damage to kill the big guys like Charizard. However, for that, we have its second attack, Star Chronos. For 5 energy, which is a pretty hefty cost, but it's nothing a Metang can't fix, does 220 damage, and you can take another turn after this one. This is a really strong V-Star attack. I think it's definitely in the top 3, like, strongest V-Star attacks of all time. This 220 is a really decent amount of damage. It does enough damage to KO Rotom, it does enough damage to KO Luminion, it does enough damage to KO Petrons. It basically KOs all of those 2 prize bench sitters. Or you can also use it to take a massive KO on something like a Charizard, because Dialga does struggle with getting enough energy with that Metal Blast attack to KO Charizard EX in one hit. So you can also just Star Chronos and then Metal Blast to make it a lot easier to KO that pesky Charizard. Now, then we also play Metang for the energy acceleration. Metang obviously has that Metal Maker ability, but once during your turn, you may look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic metal energy cards you find there to your Pokemon any way you like, and then put the other cards at the bottom of your deck. Metang is really good in this deck. Obviously, in most cases, you want to have like 2 Metang in play, because with 2 Metang, you're gonna be dealing like you're probably gonna be getting about 3 energy each turn, like 1 energy from one Metang, and then like 2 energy from the other Metang. I think that's pretty average. Yeah, that's pretty strong ability to power up Dialga's Metal Blast attack. We also have the Baby Beldums. We have 3 Temporal Forces Beldums, because they have 70 HP, but 1 Silver Tempest Beldum, even though it has 60 HP, which does make it an easy target for Regidrago and Dragapult, which are becoming a lot more popular. It does have that Magnetic Lift attack, where you can search your deck for a card and put it on the top of your deck. Which can be a lifesaver if you, for example, if you open Beldum, you can just like Magnetic Lift and you're like breaking, you can just Magnetic Lift for a research or something else, to just kind of get you back into the game. A lot of people like to play for Metang, but I think it's a little bit too much. In most cases, you only want to have 2 Metang on your bench, because otherwise it just takes up too much bench space. So 2 Metangs is fine, and I really found myself that the Metang just kept clogging up my hand. I would pretty often have like 1 or 2 Metang in my hand that I just couldn't do anything with, and it was pretty annoying. So I think just 3 Metang is fine. Okay, now next up, there's a few one-off Pokemon. I actually want to start off with this Samacenta here, which is a nice 1-price attacker. Samacenta is a basic Pokemon with 130 HP, and it has a pretty good attack and a pretty good ability as well. So, starting off with this attack, it does, for 3 energy, it does 100 damage, plus 120 more damage if one of your Pokemon got knocked out last turn. This basically means it just does 220 damage, which is insane numbers for a 1-price Pokemon that can be powered up really easily with the help of Metang. It also has an ability, Metal Shield, where it takes 30 less damage from attacks if it has any metal energy attached, which, I mean, to be honest, 160 HP is still not a lot, and you're still probably gonna get when it KO'd by almost everything. But like there are some niche situations where it could be useful. But yeah, just 220 damage is actually a lot of damage. It KOs Miraiden, it KOs Chen Pao. So I think this is definitely a good one price attacker. Also, Mimikyu also exists, and this is really good against Mimikyu as well, because Mimikyu is obviously immune to Dialga Vstar's attack. Okay, next up we have 3 draw engines. We have Cleffa, Fascinipity EX, and Radiant Greninja. Starting off with Cleffa, it is a baby Pokemon, meaning it has 30 HP and a free retreat. And it has one attack for 0 energy. It has a Grasp and Draw attack, which basically just draw cards until you have 7 in your hand. Then we got Fascinipity EX, 210 HP, has a really good ability where once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon got knocks out last turn, draw 3 cards. It's just a really powerful draw engine that a lot of decks use, and Dialga is no exception. It also has an attack that can be useful. It's just a 100 damage snipe. It's not that good, but it could come up in some niche situations. Then we second Radiant Greninja as our Radiant Pokemon. In my opinion, it's just by far the best Radiant Pokemon for this deck. This deck really tends to like brick a lot of the time, which I think is its biggest weakness. So I think having 3 draw engines is actually pretty decent. Oh, if you ever played against Dialga or watched another deck list, you might realize that Cleffa is not in there, and most people like Mew EX over Cleffa, but I think Cleffa is better. Mew EX only has 180 HP, making it a really easy target for a boss KO, and to be honest, its draw is a lot worse than Cleffa's, and it has the ability that you can draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand, but this deck often has like 3 or 4 energy in your hand, which basically makes Mew completely useless. It does also have a niche attack, Genome Hacking, but it just never really comes up, let's be honest. It sounds cool on paper, it's not actually all that good in action. I just like Cleffa better. Also, Dialga really wants to go first, but sometimes you just go second, right? Sometimes that's just the way the coin flips. And in that case, Cleffa is like super good because you can still go for that Grasp and Draw to still try to get back into the game. And it's also searchable with Buddy Puffin, making it even better. Okay, now for the supporters, we started with 3 Iono and 3 Research. Pretty basic. We want to obviously have a lot of draw because, as I previously mentioned, we tend to brick a lot of the time, and sometimes we just need a lot of different pieces. So I think having this much draw supporters is actually fine. And 3 boss orders, it is a little bit much. Most decks only play 1 or 2, but 3 boss orders is really good. I think almost every Dialga deck uses 3 boss orders, and it also should. Because in a Charizard matchup, which is one of your harder matchups, you can try to use like Star Chrono's Metal Blast to get to take out a Charizard. Then you can just use 2 boss orders to kill their Lumineon or their Rotom to take the final 2 prizes. Because going through 3 Charizards is just way too difficult, and it's actually nearly impossible. So yeah, also, as also previously mentioned, Dialga loves to go for that Star Cronus attack on something like a Squawkabilly EX or a Rotom V to take a free 2 price turn, and maybe even a 4 price turn, and boss orders is just really crucial for that. Now, we also play 1 Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking. This one is pretty cuttable. I feel like out of all the cards in this deck, Cypher Maniac is definitely the most cuttable card of the deck if you really want to get something. But I think it's still really good. It has that effect where search deck for up to 2 cards and put them on top of your deck. This synergizes really well with Metang because you can Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking for 2 metal energies, and then go for that Metal Maker ability to guarantee at least 2 energy, which can be really huge if you're down a lot of energy. So yeah, it's definitely a pretty cuttable card. I could see myself cutting it in the future, but for now, it's gonna stay in there. Okay, next up we got the items. Starting off, we have 4 Nest Ball and 4 Ultra Ball. This is a pretty heavy count, but I think it's necessary because I actually take back what I said. Remember when I said that like this deck's biggest weakness is that it tends to brick? Well, that's actually not its biggest weakness. Its biggest weakness is trying to get set up and trying to keep up and trying to chain attacks every single turn. And for that, you just have to have your Pokemon on board every single turn. So the maximum Pokemon search for Nuzlocke, for Ultra, I think it's almost necessary. I really would not recommend cutting any of these. We also play 2 Buddy Buddy Puffin. As you can see, I only have 1 Buddy Buddy Puffin. I will buy the other one soon, but yeah, I'm just using a proxy for now. But Buddy Buddy Puffin finds our Beldum, which is really useful, but it also finds our Cleffa, which is another advantage with Cleffa over something like a Mew EX. Okay, for the rest of the trainers, we have 1 switch. I mean, Dialga does have that pretty hefty 3 retreat costs, but more importantly, Metang has a 2 retreat cost. So, sometimes if your opponent is losing the game, they will just try to boss up Metang and just make it stuck there, and maybe you're out of energy, which can definitely happen sometimes, and you have no way to retreat it. You obviously need that switch. Now, we also play Prime Catcher. As I previously mentioned, Gust is really important for Dialga Vstar, and it's also a switch at the same time. So which is just a really strong effect. If you don't want to switch your active Pokemon, you can just go into Cleffa, right? And then just retreat right back into Dialga Vstar. It's just by far the best ace spec for this deck. We also have 3 Super Odd. It is a pretty heavy count. I originally played 4, but I eventually decided to cut 1. But I still think that like 2 or 3 Super Odd is definitely necessary. We play a pretty low count of Dialga. We only play a 3-3 line, which is pretty low. So if you like prize 1 or 2 Dialgas, it's definitely important to keep rotting them back. But more importantly, you want to rot back energy. You cannot always rely on that single Cypher Maniac Code Breaking, because you still need your Metang to hit. And if you're down like 10 energy, your Metang are not going to be hitting as much. So being able to super out back some energy to just make Metang reliable is really strong. Then, last but not least, we have 2 stadiums. We played one Academy at night and 1 Full Metal Lab. Both of these are pretty experimental, but I think both of them are really good. I think especially the Full Metal Lab is incredibly underrated. I have not seen a single Dialga deck play Full Metal Lab, but it fixes a lot of maths. It's just insanely strong. I think you should definitely use it. But starting off with the Academy at Night, it's basically like a mini Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking. Once during each player's turn, the player may put a card from their hand on top of their deck. Dialga obviously tends to have like 3 or 4 energy in their hand, so being able to Academy at Night to not only thin out your hand a little bit, but also be able to guarantee at least 1 energy off Metang is pretty strong. And the Full Metal Lab, I think this is probably the biggest like secret tech card in this entire deck, but I think it's super strong, and I'm gonna tell you why right now. Okay, it just fixes so much maths. Against Regidrago, which is the best deck in the format, Regidrago's highest damage they can hit is 280, which is the exact same HP as Dialga has. So with Full Metal Lab giving you 30 extra HP, the Regidrago cannot knock you out in a single hit, which is incredibly strong. Then Gardevoir, more specifically the Drifloon from Gardevoir, Drifloon can only hit up to 300 damage with a Bravery Charm on, so having 310 HP actually makes you just makes it impossible for Gardevoir to one-hit KO your Dialga Vstar. Then against Charizard does need to take an additional prize card to knock you out. Previously, Charizard had to take one less prize card than they have to do now with the Full Metal Lab, so it's also useful against Charizard. It's just good in so many matchups. If you're playing as Dragapult, your Beldum gets some additional HP, which makes it harder for Dragapult to snipe your bench. I think it's overall definitely a really strong tech card that I'm surprised no Dialga deck list play. Now then, for the last for the end, we have a lot of energy. We obviously need our Metang to hit, because if our Metang don't hit, if we whiff like 1 or 2 Metang, we basically lose. We have to get a bit lucky with our Metang. So because of that, we play a pretty heavy energy count, 16 energy to be exact. Most deck lists play like 15 or even 14, but I think 16 is definitely the right number. You could cut one, maybe, but only if you're lucky. Me personally, I'm not that lucky. I really do want 16 energy. To be honest, I haven't had... I barely ever whiff energy with 16 energy. I just think 16 energy is like almost a must. Like you can go down to 15, but definitely not 14. So anyways guys, that was it for the video. If you want to see more deck lists from other decks, or hear about my review from the tournament that I'm going to, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. AA fam.